Hello, welcome and namaste to Career Journey Podcast. Thank you so much for accepting my request to come as a guest on this podcast. You have a lot of experience and you are helping developers to build their career. So we will touch all that. Let's start from sharing what you do and what your typical day or week look like.
Sure. My current position is a product owner and application owner at one of the top 15 banks in the country here in the United States called Fifth Third. And I work in the commercial lending aspect of the bank. So I'm a product owner for an application that produces commercial credit analytics. And it provides what we call underwriters, the people who are working on loans, to make intelligent choices. So it provides them with analytics such as what are the borrowings that a company has, what we call their probability of default, which is based on a whole bunch of modeling, based on their financial statements, balance sheets, income statements, those sorts of things. And loss given default, which is a measure of what the bank could lose based on the amount that's being borrowed and also the collateral underlying the loan. And I have a pretty vast surface area. And being product owner, we are in an agile environment. So we work in an agile way. We've just adopted SAFe, structured agile framework, or a scaled agile framework. So my day begins, generally I'm an early waker. So I wake up early in the morning. I just naturally wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning every single day, regardless if it's a weekday or if it's on the weekend. Sometimes I sleep a little bit more on the weekends, but not too much. Begin my day with about 15 minutes of meditation, self-reflection. I find that grounds me. It allows me to align with purpose. And I'm not perfect at this. I'm still growing this practice. I've been doing it for a long time, but I fall off the horse from time to time. I have to get myself back on. But this is generally what I do. Then I try to do some kind of physical exercise. I do Tai Chi, some just stretching and that sort of thing. And then I drink my coffee and I go to the office. Typically, the day begins at 8 o'clock a.m. for the first meeting of the day, which is technically our stand-up and our technical meeting. Now, I have a team that is dispersed. So I have 4 people that work in Bangalore, India. I have 3 developers that are on site with me, and then I have someone in Florida that does a lot of our testing and QA. The morning meeting is our stand-up. So we go through our Kanban board, we go through the stories, people give updates on what they did yesterday, what they're doing today, what's blocking them, which is typical agile stand-up format. Try to minimize that to 15 minutes. And then we go into the technical. As we're going through the daily stand-up, we identify those stories that need refinement or technical solutions that need to be talked about. And then we add that to a list that we then bring into the technical meeting. And we do this in a formal way. This is the stand-up. Okay, here's the board. Tell us what the updates are on these things, what's blocking you, which ones you need further direction on. And then we stop that and say, okay, now we're going into technical. And then we go into the technical, and then we go through whatever it is that generally it mostly focused on our offshore developers. The offshore developers then get the guidance that they need really to frame out their next day. Because by the time we're meeting with them, it's 6 p.m. or it's pretty late. They've done their day. And then we meet with them from 8 to about 9. Sometimes it extends to 9:15 and 9:30. And that's the first meeting of the day. After that, we take a break and I can have meetings. We have what we call the ART, which is the Agile Release Train, which is the virtual organization within SAFE that are all working towards adding value to the value stream. In this case, it's commercial lending. We group up and we already have our goals for the next 3 months. We do this thing called PI planning, project increment planning. And then throughout the day, I'm strategizing with my developers, reading things on the ground as far as what's coming from technical support. Hey, one of the joys of working in the industry, I'm sure this video is that you really can't plan your day even to the hour because you have no idea what's going to come at you every single day. And it just amazes me the variety of things that could come. Oh, this software needs to be upgraded. It needs to be upgraded tonight. What? This database is out of support. You need to upgrade it. All kinds of things that happen. Typically, I'm the first point of contact for our stakeholders. That's generally a product owner type thing, but anything that happens in the environment all day long, we have product support IMing us, emailing us, telling us things that we need to know about the functioning of the application. That's typically my way, going through meetings, strategizing with developers, working with stakeholders, and from time to time taking a rest. Generally, our rests are walking around the building. The team that we have, the 3 people that I work with most that are sit around me, we're all in little pods. We can see each other. We talk all day long. Even at lunch, it's usually hard to get away from whatever we're working on technically. So that's typically how the day goes.
I have many follow-up questions, but
Sure.
it seems like you're working in office and then once you go home, you take rest. What,
Yes.
how do you wind up? Because I know you also do a lot of content writing.
Yeah. Yeah. My general outlet is physical activity. So I have a very, I would say, strict in the way that I know that 3 days a week I need to go to the gym. I have specific goals around that and my physical health and well-being. I have to plan for that and I have to plan around my family's activities. I have 3 daughters. One is 13. The others are older. My 13-year-old is a dancer, competitive dancer, which means she's going to dance just about every single day. So I have to make sure we organize it is we have a calendar. My wife puts everything that needs to happen on the calendar. And I follow that calendar pretty well. I fit in what I need to do within what the family needs to get done. And at night, lying down, spend time with my wife. A lot of times I'll work a little bit later into the night and she has all kinds of volunteer activities. So when she's doing her volunteer activities, I'm trying to create the content and build my coaching business.
Wow. My daughter is also 13 and my son is in college. So yeah, but I can fully understand what you mean.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
a 23-year-old that graduated college and she's in her first job and she just moved out of the house. So that was a big step for her. She's living in an apartment fairly close by. We'll see her later today. And then I have a middle daughter who's in college. She's in her junior year at Ohio University, which is about 3.5 hours away. It's far away enough that when she's in college, she's
right.
not in the household. And I have a 13-year-old that is in the household and requires a lot of attention.
For sure. For sure. You're
So,
supporting 4 women.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, this is kudos to you. One of my colleague actually had two daughters, and he used to say a man of three women, and he loves it. Like how a couple of follow up questions. It seems like you're working in office and your meeting, the stand up meeting goes for an hour.
Yeah.
So I guess the stand up plus the parking lot discussion and everything. You said this AI planning and all. So who does that? Is there a different person for release train engineer and also
Yes.
who does the PI planning facility?
So there's a program manager
Okay.
at the ARC level, at the agile release train level, and then there's a release train engineer, and they're basically coordinating the activities of the ARC. So the way it works is the PM comes up with what she believes should be the PI goals. We're actually going through this, that we're doing PI planning on Tuesday.
For the second quarter?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So in my company, I work for Advent Health, and my department is the consumer digital group consumer products, which
Mhm.
include adventhealth.com, Advent Health account, which is like patient portal application, and that's
Right.
web, iOS, Android. And me and my team is responsible for all that PI planning and Scrum,
Oh, wow. Okay.
release trains. So m- I have different team member who does different thing to support this activities. So my background was a senior engineer to a team leader, then development manager, and now I'm agile transformation leader in my office. And I
Okay.
also handle the release or communication, education, and adoption of the application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Our program manager comes up with a list of goals that she wants to achieve. And then each of the team looks through their backlog, looks through the roadmap, and tries to connect what they want to do with the goals that are being presented by the PM. And for instance, we had one thing that wasn't on the PM goals, and we said, well, we think this is important. So we had to meet, we had to discuss it, and we had to present our case and say, look, we're expecting an increased volume in this area. We know we need to do some work here. We don't like that the customer, our internal customers, are being negatively impacted. We have a plan. We can support your goals as well as this activity that we're looking to do with the team. So we were able to influence her and get buy-in to spend time working on that during this next PI.
Okay. I think we can have the entire episode just talking about this
Yeah.
because there's a lot, right? Within this, there's a lot. There are tools, there are practice, and in general, agile is broken everywhere. There is, I yet to meet with a company that is doing a perfect agile. Everybody I spoke to have one or the other thing that they are not happy about. But
Oh yeah,
it's far better than a waterfall method that I used to use before. Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I worked at a startup and we weren't doing agile right there either, but we were doing it more right than we're probably doing it at the bank at certain times. And we always used to get into these philosophical
right.
discussions about, are we doing agile right? Are we doing, what do they call it? Agile. Are we doing weak agile?
I feel like if you are running your business, then you may not be doing the agile right. The
Hmm.
only people, and I say those people as cheerleader,
Hmm.
those people are running agile the perfect ways, but they are not running business. They are doing some kind of project that has no customer or no real world problem. I know I'm putting myself in danger
Yeah.
by saying that, but your main goal is to solve business problem.
Hmm.
Your main goal is to run a business. For that, you're building an application. And to build an application, you have the customer that you're trying to support, your internal staff member, whoever it is.
And at the startup, we used to get customers on the phone and we used the project manager or the product managers
Mhm.
would present them with their vision of a solution for whatever problem they're looking to solve. And they would walk them through the workflows that they were developing, and then they would get feedback. And I used to sit in on those sessions. And that was really cool. I thought that was really cool because you start to see the beginning and then you get to participate in the end. And when you talk about the technology industry, what motivates me is really the excitement of delivering that final solution to there's just some kind of high that comes from, I've worked on the software, it's now live, it's in people's hands. You don't necessarily like to hear product support getting calls and things like that. But
Mhm.
when people call product support, it means they care. They're actually using your application, and salespeople are selling it, and the company is making money, and it's a win all around. And the whole time, I'm just having fun doing this. That's what the excitement for me of being in technology is. It's like being part of that process.
And how many application you deliver doesn't get old. Like you still get excitement every time you release something.
Yeah. In the startup, it spent about 4 or 5 months remaking this one application. It was like a CRM application, but it was custom. And we went through this whole process of understanding the current application that they were using. It was also custom designed. How should it be modified in order to make it better, in order to provide more value? We did user acceptance testing as we were iterating through the creation of the application. I mean, we did a lot of these things right. And we came out and it was a great application. And it lasted about a month because we didn't realize this at the time, but the upper level people were working on a merger. We were part of a private equity
Mhm.
portfolio, and they merged us with this other company that had a very similar application that was already built and designed. So they threw away that application that we worked on for months, that we did all that hard work on, and substituted this other application. And I'm more practical about these types of things. I realize that, let's face it, software is all going to go away eventually. Any software you're working on, don't get married to it because it's going to go away. You know, the question is when. But heart and soul into it, the lead technology developer, this is like this is her trying to better her career by stepping into leadership. They gave her the opportunity, the responsibility to build this application. Um, Wonderful lady, her name's Radhika. She was so involved in this that it really crushed her when they killed the project. I remember being in the meeting and with the leaders, and they unveiled this merger that they were about to do. And I was there with the CIO and my colleagues. And as we were driving back, I was like, what are we going to tell Radhika? What are we going to tell Radhika? Who's going to talk to Radhika because she's going to be crushed by this?
Mm.
And the other guys weren't even thinking about that. They're like, well, just tell her that the project's canceled.
Right.
But she put her heart and soul into it. She's going to really feel this as a major blow. I'm going to have to do this in an intelligent way. She's all right, though. She goes to my gym. I see her. She's doing great. Doesn't work for that company anymore, though.
You're now a project manager, project owner, but how did you start your career? What was your previous roles?
Yeah. So I went through an untraditional route. I was going to be in business. So I was a business guy.
Okay.
So I went to school for business, and I don't know how much you want me to go into it. I was on the business side. I was in sales. I was in operations for a number of financial companies for 9 years.
Long time.
Yeah. And I had previous tickles with technology. I remember my dad coming home, I think it was in the late 70s, with this big gray box on my dining room table. And I'm like, what is that? He's like, it's a computer. Like,
Wow, 1970,
I think it was in
80s. Yeah, I
78. It was a TRS 80. And I said, what are you going to do with it? He said, I'm going to fix it. It had like the Mr. Fix-It guy. He fixed just about anything. Did he go to school for computer engineering? No. But he knows soldering, he knows wires, he knows transistors, he knows capacitors, he knows all those things. So he fixed this computer. It was given to him. Someone gave it to him, and he fixed it, and I started using it. So that was my first experience with computers. But so you might ask, why would you go into business when you already had some experience with computers? You know, and you had that idea that, yeah, this is going to be the future. This is going to be a really cool place. The answer to that question is limiting beliefs. I didn't think I was smart enough. I thought software engineers, people in the technical industry, even then, were like the brightest of the bright and do math in their heads, geniuses. And I learned later on in life that that's not the case. And that's what I built my coaching philosophy on, is that you shouldn't buy into these limiting beliefs. But anyway, getting back to the story. So I was in business and I started to develop a curiosity about the systems, because for whatever reason, I'd always find the thing that was wrong with the system. Always press the land button and then something unexpected happened, and started to think about who are these people that are building this these systems. I want to talk to them. I want to know. Year 2000 came around, and Y2K, and I was working at Fidelity at this time on the operations floor, and we had to do all this software testing for our medium systems. Someone from IT came in and they put around a project to do this user acceptance testing, and I thought, this is pretty cool. Just so happened that right after 2000, there was an opening in the QA team, and I went for it and got it. And that's how I began my IT career. It was going into QA, and I progressed up the ladder of QA very quickly. So within 6 years, I was managing a team. I had gone back to school, learned software engineering. I learned I learned coding, C++, Java, all that. And then I was given a responsibility to run the automation team for my whole line of business. So we were doing all kinds of test automation, QTP. We were building custom test apps in VB.NET. We had a whole bunch of things. And then 2008 happened. 2008, Lehman Brothers, the banking crisis, and a lot of uncertainty. And in early 2009, the Fidelity basically laid off all of the Midwest employees. I live in Cincinnati, in technology. And so I was looking for a job. And then I'm happy to say that everybody on my team got a job before me. So it took, even in the worst economic environments in the United States at the time, early 2009, the people who were working for me, all of them got jobs within 2 to 3 months. Took me a little longer. But when I did get my next job, it was at that startup that I was talking about. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. Yeah. So I entered there. I was the QA manager and systems analysis manager. I had BAs and QA, and it was a very flat organization. So I was the backup operational leader. I did all kinds of things, and that was the joy of it. I diversified my skills to a large extent there.
And that was like 2009-ish time when
right. Started in July 2009 and did that job in November 2018. So I was there for about 6.5 years. And then again, I was looking for a job because they did all this restructuring and they eliminated my position. And then I got the job at Fifth Third Bank. I wanted to get back into development, but the first job I took at the bank was in the QA area. QA manager, At the time, they were extreme waterfall. Agile wasn't yet really a thought for the bank. This is 2016. I had a very large team and I spent a lot of time just doing administrative, just contracts, statements of work. At the time, I had about 8 full-time employees, had about 20 onshore contractors, and over 100 offshore contractors that were in my organization. And so a lot of time with vendors, a lot of time with paperwork, and not much delivery at all. I needed to get out of that position. So I did. About a year and a half after that, I went into the commercial lending organization I'm still part of. I was brought in as a BA manager. I call this my third-party application babysitting days. So I was given a group of third-party applications, a bunch of vendors, and a couple of BAs that were working underneath me. And I just managed those applications. So it was vendor management. And that's when I started to work on my strategy to get back into development. So all the applications that I looked at, I was trying to develop integrations. I was working with architects. I was trying to find whatever technical something I could do within those third-party applications. So I came up with all these plans, and then this big project came up, and I was selected to be the product owner of the application that we're working on now. Part of it, anyway. We were taking this big monolith application that had been working in the bank for many years. All the data was self-contained. It was all brought in by ETL data transfer every night. And we had to break that apart. Part of the application was going into the cloud. It was going to be a Salesforce application, or basically a module that was built on Salesforce. We didn't have Salesforce at the time. And then there were specialty applications like this credit analytics that I'm in charge of now, where we had to build the mechanism to be in what I'll call our new ecosystem. And our new ecosystem is basically based on microservices and messaging. So rather than remaking our balance file every single night, so just dropping the old one from yesterday and remaking it, now what we do is we accept changes. So when the balances change, we get a message, we update our database, and then there's a cascading effect that does calculations further up down the line. So that was where I realized, all right, now I'm a technical leader again. I have developers under me. We're building this greenfield project. And then COVID hit. So we built it out right through COVID. And we had a number of contractors. We had consultants, a lot of consultants from a fairly famous consulting company that I won't name, but it begins with a big A. And there I learned a whole bunch about consulting. And so that brings us up to today.
Wow. Incredible journey from the business to QA to 2 bumps in the road, and then navigating your own, creating your own way in this third place.
Yeah. So my advice to people who may be in a job that isn't exactly what they want, sometimes the answer is just to leave.
Yeah. So let's talk about your coaching and what you do and what the key differentiators or what methods that you use.
Mm-hmm. As you were saying, the people that I help are all gamut of the spectrum. So someone who's looking for a job in technology, brand new technology, typically what I'll suggest to them is to do what I did in 2009. Basically, work on your career vision. What do you imagine yourself doing in the next 3 to 5 years? Get really specific on that. Basically, it can change, obviously. You have these bumps in the road, as you were calling them, that kind of take you off course. But if you know where you're going, you have that kind of North Star, you have that goal in mind, then even the bumps could help you in some mysterious way. So you got to get clear on your career vision. And I'm working on a Notion template that kind of walks people through that. I call
I
it the
was
Career
about to ask.
Accelerator.
I was about to say that,
Yeah,
ask you, because that's a big problem. Most people do not know what they want. Even when they have job, even when they are 5 years in that job, they
right.
don't know what they really want. And many people either adopt whatever their manager is saying, whatever their colleague is doing, and they all think, okay, all right, I need this too. So
Yeah,
that's a
yeah. So
big gap, right? Whether it is a new person or whether it is experienced person, how do you help
absolutely.
them find what they want?
Yeah, yeah. And part of understanding what you want is understanding what you've been successful at in the past. So they say, okay, think about what you were really excited about when you were a child. What did you do? What did you like to do? Were you someone that liked to play sports? Were you someone that liked to read? Were you like to play music? Did you like to dance? Try to really understand that aspect of yourself. But getting back to the career vision, for someone just starting out, you need to come up with what I call your success stories. Even if you're not in tech, you still have successes that you can talk about. So your summer jobs, for instance, you need to be able to communicate, because let's face it, if you're brand new, nobody's expecting you to be experienced. Nobody is expecting you to say, I developed this really great application, I made $1 million and I sold it to Google. You're just starting out. But what they do expect is that you can at least communicate what you have done in a way that allows people a glimpse into who you are. What are your values? How do you handle problems? How do you handle situations? Those are the types of things. Like, we're asked a question, for instance, describe a conflict that you had to work through and how did you work through it? And you have to say, all right, here's something, it may not connect to technology, but that we're not looking for something in technology. We're looking for you, for what you did, not the technical aspect. And the other thing is that if you don't have these success stories, you just can't make them. If you don't have a lot of them because maybe you don't have a lot of experience, you have to create the circumstance to have a success story. This delves into what you talk about a lot, right? You got to have a project. You have to have a personal project. You have to be working on things that are outside of your work that you can still talk about and highlight in your career, right? You want to build that portfolio of projects that you can talk about. Those are success stories too. We'll ask a question such as, what project are you working on? They're working on this application. A personal project. What personal project are you working on? And some people can answer that question and some people can't. A lot of people can answer that question and it becomes a very interesting conversation. Oh, I'm building some computer game. Oh, really? What technology are you using?
My first three job was all because of the last project that I worked on. So that's why I all really believe in building something on your side
Yeah,
that you're really passionate about, and it's the energy that when you speak about it, it's the energy that everybody can sense.
yeah, yeah. And technical people will start delving into it. Now, of course, everything you say needs to be true. Otherwise, that'll come through too. I had a guy who said, "Oh, I built an extension Minecraft." Oh, really? What extension did you build? What functionality did you build? He said, I need something where he started hammering, and it turned out he just figured out how to change the configuration to make different things happen. It was like, did
Once
you
that
learn
happened,
something? Yeah,
once that happened in the interview, then me as a hiring manager, I won't listen to anything else, because then I'm questioning everything that is there in your resume.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
It has happened with me where somebody has put in so many things, so many skills in their resume. And if I would randomly pick one, ask two follow-up questions and done. I
Right.
know this is not right. That if I cannot believe what you have in the third or fourth row in your resume, how could I believe? I'm not sitting here to validate each and everything and then still questioning whether this was right or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Resume inflation is a big problem.
Yeah.
For those starting out, don't do it. Don't do
I
it.
would even be
Look,
okay if somebody tell me I'm talking about this one thing, and then if that person says that honestly, this was for ATS system, otherwise I would not have been sitting here. I wrote it so that your system can. I will be okay with that. Somebody trying to play along and trying to tell a story that is incorrect.
if you want to put something on your resume, then just get the experience. Just make
Be able to defend
make your lie a reality, and then you don't have a problem with it.
as long as you can defend it. If you cannot defend, don't put it.
And you have a lot of opportunity nowadays. Like in the 90s, we had no opportunity. Even in the early 2000s, we didn't have the opportunities that people have today. You could get ramped up on any technology you want online. There's probably some kind of simulator for it,
Right.
and you can get some experience. If you want to put it on your resume, you feel comfortable, then you go ahead and do it. When I first interviewed for the startup, I interviewed with the CIO, and the CIO he's just a great guy, but I think this guy is a complete genius. He has like a photographic memory. He knows everything about software, everything about databases, everything about infrastructure and storage and phone systems, and like just
Mhm.
an amazing guy. And he saw that I had put Selenium on my resume. Selenium is test tool, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're
We use
familiar
it.
with it. It works in the browser. You can use it in the browser in like Firefox, and it basically emulates mouse clicks. And I put it on my resume after spending about 3 hours on the application. Little bit of a risk, but I got the experience, right? I could speak intelligently. I knew how to automate an application using it. I wasn't an expert, but I put it on my resume. So he asked me about it, and he was really excited. He was like, "Oh, I've been wanting to I wanted to bring this to the," and he said, "It's great that, you have an experience with it." And I basically said, "Yeah, I've spent some time working on it as a personal project. I didn't use it at my former employer. We didn't use it there. We used PTP and all these other applications, but I'm familiar with it, and I'm confident that I can stand it up here."
Perfect.
And we did.
Yeah, that's perfect.
If you put it on a resume, have the experience to back it up. It doesn't need to be an expert. You just got to be forthcoming about.
And you was honest. Like you're not an expert. You have not used in the professional setting. It's you
Right.
have taken the initiative to learn it, and with your experience with other tool, you should be able to implement this one.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need your career vision. You need your success stories. Unfortunately, even today, you need your resume. You need whatever supplemental for your resume, portfolio projects. You need to be able to communicate well. I suggest to everybody that you start getting comfortable answering interview questions. And when you're answering interview questions, you don't want to go on and on. You ask a question, you basically bring up your situation, the action, the obstacles, the results, and then you stop and wait for the interviewer to ask you the next question, ask a fire up. It needs to be a dance, and your steps need to be light, and you need to be able to play the game, right? Because I'm sure you as a hiring manager, you don't have that much time to interview candidates. So you probably get a resume, you look at it, you form an impression, either I want to see this guy or I want to, or person, or I don't want to see this person. I think they may add value to my team, but you're probably not spending more than a half hour, an hour with these people.
And if somebody keep talking about one answer, I think after 30 seconds and in some cases after a minute, I'm not able to focus and listen. I'm trying to grasp, okay, so what exactly you're telling me? And that also limit my ability to ask follow-up questions, which could have been more powerful,
Right.
or ask another different other questions.
Yes. In order to get good at something, you need to practice.
One
You
more
need-
thing I wanted to add, sorry.
Sure.
When somebody gave me like 3 to 5 minutes of answers, which is like all over the place, I don't know if it is right or wrong, but I do judge them that how they will act in my team when we are having requirement conversation, when we will have a conversation with a client or whoever, will they be able to communicate, or will I have to listen for 30 minutes to be able to get something from them?
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. You want to be concise in your communication. Something that I've been told that I'm really good at is basically taking this huge complex type of thing, breaking it into smaller pieces, and then coming up with the higher level communication for it. So if you ask my developer to explain something, yeah, I'll give you an example. We had a sprint review, right? So that's a meeting that's after the sprint. The sprint is a 2-week period. I'm assuming that people are familiar with Agile and all that. So we have a sprint review, and we select some of the stories to be highlighted during that sprint review. And we go ahead and give the developers, the whole team, sprint reviews, the whole team basically presenting to our stakeholders and anyone who cares about the work that we're doing to get a glimpse into what we did in the last 2 weeks. So I selected this story and my main developer handed it off to him, and he just starts going way into the technical. He starts showing screens and queries and I said, okay, all right, not to interrupt you, but can you give people a high level view of what the problem is? Yeah, you call it framing the problem statement. Like, what is the problem? So you got to get very clear and concise on why is someone going to listen to me? Like, why would someone care? I had to break in, and then afterwards, he's, yes, thank you for doing that. I'm going to have to be better at that next time. Make sure that I start at the higher level, because I'm always thinking about the person that's sitting there listening, and do they understand what's going on? So getting back to the interview, you got to practice answering interview questions. That's the only way to do it. You come up with a list of questions. In some of the material I'll be releasing soon, I have a whole list of questions, but you don't need to go through 100 questions. Every question is basically asking the same thing. And one of the things that I've learned is that if you're asked a technical question and you don't know the answer, it's okay to just say, I don't know. I actually had a guy, he interviewed my team. I asked him some JavaScript thing, and he said, I don't know. And then there was silence. And I was like, wow, I don't know what to do next. I guess I'm going to have to go to the next question. He just said he didn't know. There's nothing else for me to do here. Well, I would say, all right, rather than saying I don't know, try to think about an experience like whatever problem or technical area that they're talking about and connect it to that. For instance, if I ask you, do you have any experience with Postgres? Postgres is a database application. And then you just leave it there, you missed an opportunity. Because maybe you know MySQL. Maybe you know SQL Server. Maybe you went to a database, or you went to school and you know about the design of databases. You know the structure of SQL and you know how to join tables. You know how to do a select statement. You know how to do all these other things. But I ask you a specific question about Postgres, and you think I'm asking about Postgres. I'm not asking about Postgres. I'm asking about databases. What do you know about databases? So I would coach and say, they'll ask you something about technology and you don't know about it. Then if you can connect it to a past experience then do that. I don't have experience in Postgres, but I know that Postgres is database application. And I've worked on personal projects where I've stood up MySQL. I know how to do select statements. I know how to do that through code and Python or C# or wherever. And now I think you're a technical guy, right? It gives you, and even if you don't know Postgres, let's assume you don't know Postgres, you could say, I've not heard of that. What is that? And some people might judge you. It's true. Some people might say Postgres, it's been around since, I don't know, 93 or something. It's been around for a long time. How could you not know about it? People in technology don't know everything about everything. That's one of the things that I've learned. We all have our own specialties. We all have our little crevice of reality that we're diving into. So it's okay to just say, you know what, I've never heard of Postgres. What is it? And we're going to say it's a database application. Yeah, I know about databases. Okay. Do you have any? Obviously, if they ask you if you don't have any experience and you hadn't heard about it, then that's a silly question. But if they ask you, do you have any experience with, let's say, Kafka? I don't know if you're familiar with Kafka. We use Kafka a lot. So Kafka is a messaging broker application. So you can say, what's Kafka? Oh, it's a messaging broker. Oh, I have lots of experience with MSMQ. It's a messaging broker, right? I have experience with Rabbit. You have experience with Rabbit HQ? I think that's really cool. I've stood up a proof of concepts of that. But so anyway, going back to the questions, you got to learn how to answer your questions. You got to be comfortable with talking to someone that you haven't spoken to before, giving them an idea of who you are through your stories. And you have to have your marketing material, which includes your resume, to really do it right. And I don't think a lot of people do it right. You have to come prepared. You have to know about the company. You have to try to know about the interviewer. You have to come with questions. And exit an interview without getting a couple questions in. And the more targeted towards whatever company it is, the questions, the better it's going to be. I've had a number of interviews where it's, so you have any questions? No. Really? We have no questions. I just told you about this technology we're working on. We just gave you a couple of questions and you have no questions. So either A, you're not interested, or B, you don't realize that what you're signaling to me by not asking questions is that you're not interested in the opportunity.
I migrated in US about 20 years ago, but my first 5 job was in India. And culturally, at least at that time, it was not accustomed to ask many questions.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it is now, but in my first 5 interviews or 5 jobs, I did not ask any questions. I learned that once I was migrated here.
Yeah. But we've definitely hired people that didn't ask questions because, you know what I mean? I'm not saying it's a deal breaker, but to set yourself up for the best possible chance of getting a job.
Oh, for sure.
Coming with intelligent questions. And what I would do is I'd research the technology that they have if it's available on the internet. A lot of times there are people that are from those companies that are giving talks and conferences, and you can, oh, they're working in Java, they're a Java shop, or they're a .NET shop, or you can figure that out, and you could ask a really simple question. What challenges are you experiencing in .NET? What challenges are you experiencing in Java? What's on your roadmap? So those are some of the things. And then the other thing that I was going to say that a lot of people don't do, but I think they should, is following up. Immediately follow up with a thank you. It doesn't need to be a letter. It doesn't need to be on fancy stationery. It just needs to be a well thought out communication to the person that interviewed you saying, Thank you for giving me your time. Thank you for having the opportunity. Thank you for an exciting conversation, and letting them know that you're reflecting on the conversation and that you hooked into some piece of meaning that came out. You just want to say, oh, I really enjoyed the conversation that we had about Postgres. I learned a lot. Sounds like something I should know. I'm going to do a personal project on it, whatever. The fire up is very important. I can't tell you how many interviews I've gotten. I've never gotten any additional communication. They're just sitting there waiting for me to say yes or no. But when they do, we used to do some interviews and we'd have like multiple managers interview a single candidate. We would compare notes, right? We would say, oh, I got an email from this guy. Oh, I got an email too. Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. It signals interest. Hey, this person's interested. And that could be the dividing line. Never know what's going to lead to you being hired. Because even if you went, the top candidate may have a whole other bunch of irons in the fire. They may have been interviewing for other places. They may learn one of those before they accept the job that you're going for. So you may end up number 2 or 3 and still have the position.
Right. And many times, number one candidates are not a good fit for the team. So
Yeah.
sometime, even though you are not the best, but you are best fit for the job or the team.
Yeah. So it's a little bit about the way I coach, and especially for someone going in new, someone who's more experienced. I think it's a similar path. You got to get clear on your career vision. You got to get clear on where you want to go. You're probably set up better to come up with those success stories. Look for those success stories. Look for those areas, those areas where you can make a contribution that you can take credit for. One of the things I talk about, is there an application? Is there some kind of technology that is talked about but not yet implemented? For instance, we had Splunk. You're familiar with Splunk?
I have heard about it. I have not used or dig deeper into it.
Yeah. So Splunk is a way, it's a way to do logging of an application in a much faster way than a database. Faster and more visual. We have Splunk at the bank, but we're doing all our database logging, or all our logging through the database. Every time we were looking to connect like a user experience to an exception in our application, we'd have to do a database query. And we had for a couple of years, we had Splunk like on the shelf. There was a little work to be done. Other work kept trumping that need to get to Splunk. And then we had a new developer come in. He'd never been messaging at all. And he'd never been banking. He had no idea about banking or business context about banking. But he was good technically. We could tell he was good technically. He had leadership skills. We felt like this is someone that we need to lead our offshore team from a technical perspective. And we're, okay, what should we give him to work? Because knowledge transfer takes a long time. So I said, why don't we just challenge him with Splunk? We had one of these guys working on it for about 2 months. He's got a proof of concept up and running. We need to productionalize Splunk. Let's see if he can do it. 2 days, Splunk was up and running and ready for prod. We thought he was a genius. I don't know how long he actually spent in those 2 days, but that's a big win. And that kind of increased his brand on our team. So someone who's existing, you got to start asking him questions. What are things that the team wants or is talked about, but isn't yet implemented? Become an expert in those things. Become an expert in Splunk. Get that thing up and running. And then you can point to that as an example of you taking leadership on the team. I talk about increasing your influence, widening your influence. Someone comes over to me and says, I want a promotion. Okay, great. What job title do you want? I'm a senior developer and I want to be a principal developer. Okay. Let's look at the job description for a principal developer. What does it say? In short, a principal developer, the differentiator is a senior developer is working mostly on the team and mostly inward focused on the team. Principal developer is starting to widen his influence and affecting multiple teams, affecting the more of the organization. So they're not just implementing technical solutions, they're actually teaching other developers and having influence on other teams. They're proposing architectural solutions. If that's what you want to do, that's what you need to demonstrate. You need to work with your manager to come up with a plan. I think a lot of people just think that these things are just going to happen. Oh, if I just do the best job I can, I'll be promoted.
I typically say that for this, it's actually a reflection of our education system. Every year you will go to the next class, and then every 3 to 4 years you will get from elementary to middle to high. This is the mindset that we have grown, and nobody has changed. Like,
But you know what?
they expect this too.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Right.
So you're a manager node, right? If you have a guy who's just senior developer and you may know he wants to be promoted, but every time you meet with him one-on-one, it's just, oh yeah, everything's great. Yeah, I'm learning this, I'm doing this. Okay, I have a problem here, I have a problem there. Versus you have another senior developer, same level, and he goes, I want to be a principal developer and I want you to help me get there. What do I need to do? He goes and he says, here's what I've done towards the plan to get me to a principal developer. That kind of puts a a fire under your to help him get to where he wants to go, because you can feel he's moving towards something and he's in, right? So you need to be, I should take this advice myself, to be honest with you. Right now. But I'm at a level where I have one step left to go. I'm not interested in senior management anymore. I was at one time, not anymore.
Same here. But when I wanted to become a manager and I was a team leader, I went to two people. One was my director, that I want to do that. What do I need to do? Help. And then I discuss different thing that is needed, right, to be able to do that job. And then I went to a mentor within the company that I'm a team leader. I want to become manager. Help me get there.
Yeah.
Two people that I contacted, and it took me another year or two after that, but I was very intentional, and then the people around me became very intentional.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great strategy. Having a mentor to bounce ideas off of is invaluable, and they can open up so many opportunities. I've had mentors over the years that have really helped out. And talking to your high level people at the higher level and let them know that you have a plan, that you have a vision. But I think vision is something that's just not lacking a lot of times in getting people promoted. People get promoted for a variety of reasons, but a lot of them are like, they're firing a vision. It's just, they think they're just taking the next step. But my advice is to be bold about it. I had this one guy, developer, every time I met with him, he told me how underpaid he was. Every time. It got a little tiring. But when I was trying to figure out salaries for the next year, guess who I had in my head as far as who I was going to give more money to? Because the other people seem to be satisfied. This guy's not satisfied. And I happen to agree with the fact that he might have been underpaid. So the squeaky wheel hits the grease a lot of the time, and you got to be bold about it. When I was given the opportunity to be a manager in a run automation team, the way that worked out was I had a meeting with the VP and I said, we need an automation team and I need to run it. And he said, why? And I said, I'm uniquely qualified to run a team, to build and run a team doing this. It worked. He gave me the team. I hired people from nothing. There was no automation really going on at all in an organized fashion there. And I brought it all together and created a team to do it. And so the point is you got to be bold. You got to ask for what you want. You got to get guidance along the way, development plan. If you work on a plan with your manager, and let's say it has 10 goals, and month by month, you start ticking off those goals, and you get to that 10th goal, the manager will go, you've probably grown tremendously along the way. You deserve that promotion. And now you basically have it in writing from your manager that you've done everything necessary to get that promotion. Now, of course, managers don't always control promotions. They have to happen gradually. But if you're the only person on that team following this approach, you're going to get that
There is
promotion.
an opening, when there is an opportunity, you will be the next for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's another thing that I coach.
So, question for you, and I know we are over. I don't know how much extra time you have, but I wanted to ask you, if somebody want this coaching from you, what do they do? How do they sign up?
Yes. On X, at Vet Tech Coach, there's a link there that leads to a Calendly, and you can request coaching there. You can DM me, and I'll be happy to help you. Because I'm on my coaching journey. I've got a lot of experience, and I'm happy to help anybody as best I can to either begin or maximize their performance in their current position or pivot to tech from business, because I've done that.
I'm assuming that they would sign up for this Calendly, which is like 30-minute conversation where you will assess, and then based on their situation, you will recommend them what next.
That's right. Yes. Yes. I'm still early in my journey here on the content creation and standing up a coaching business, but I'm looking to stand up a coaching business for the long term. I want this to be my next job.
Right. This is, so what I'm telling myself is I'm creating something that I will retire in.
Yeah.
And then I will just keep doing that forever. But
Yes.
I need to build it now before I get retired. And in just 2 years, I'm already feeling that I don't have to wait until retirement. I could do this sooner. Yeah. Just like how you said, this will be the next job, not retirement. So yeah, this is amazing. Like how much our experience can help so many people speed up their journey that took us longer to do everything. I still remember the days when I wasted like 3-4 years just thinking about, should I pursue management track or an architect? I just wasted 3-4 years just thinking about it, because there are two things that I would do. If I decide management track, I would do MBA. If I decide a technical track, I would do MS, because my company would pay. Like it's a free money. But I was still waiting. And then now, many years later, anything would have been okay. It doesn't matter in long run which track that you chose, you could still be okay.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. Even if you have a career vision and you adjust it from time to time, then as long as you're firing your energy.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta, I don't know, this is maybe esoteric, but I believe that you need to follow your energy. You need to go where your energy is taking you. And that should be reflected in your career vision.
Right.
And if you're going in a direction that you don't feel the energy for,
right,
you need to find a way to pivot and find it where, do what you need to do to follow that energy. I think life's too short to spend too much energy in a direction that's not fulfilling
Yeah.
your needs.
Yeah. And career takes several turns. It's 30, 40 years of journey.
Hmm.
And every person that I have interviewed in this career journey podcast have taken many turns. Like in your case, you started with marketing and sales and then QA, and now you're doing the product management. So it's all different areas. I interviewed somebody who started with the business and then became a teacher, and now she's a elementary school principal and very happy with it.
Yeah.
I interviewed Pam, who's running Archer coaching. They their primary client is Chicago MBA schools, and she has many different turns in her career. So anyway, point is your career is 30, 40 years long and
Right.
long journey, and you start somewhere and that will take many turns and you will end up somewhere.
Yeah, it's true. They say a lot of people they don't get careers in the areas that they went to school for. A
That
lot of them.
for sure.
That's not true in my case because I have the business background to understand economics and the way business works and risk management and a lot of these things that someone who just studied computer science wouldn't necessarily have. But I also studied computer science and programming. And so I can talk intelligently about object-oriented design and architecture and all the things. And then I can bring that together in a message to business leaders
Right?
that give them an idea of what's going on without going into the deep down technical. So it's what my skill set ended up being after 23 years in the tech industry, 30 years in business out of school. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of turns in the road, but
So to bring this session home, I've last questions.
yeah,
One, so is there a question that I have not asked but you want to answer?
we've been talking for a long time. Nothing comes to mind right now.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
I could talk to you for a long time. This is really great, and thank you for the invitation. And I look forward to talking to you again.
All right. So last question is, what's your message to the audience?
Message to the audience is, I feel very strongly that anybody can be successful in the tech business. And it's been my experience that there is a lot of fun and joy and challenges, and it's a great place to be. You don't necessarily need to be a programmer. You don't need to be a developer. You could have a career in technology in other areas, utilizing the skills that you're building in your life today. And I encourage anyone that wants to know more, wants coaching, what have you, to contact me at Brett Tech Coach on X.